this computer. And we're back, guys.
And I have exciting news because Alicia went to a seminar about manifesting. So I'm very curious in picking her brain now. How do you feel, lady?
Well, everything in my body is excited after this conference. The conference agenda was addiction, mental health, and wellness. And so there were a lot of, I saw a lot of the top researchers in the field present their information and learned a lot, but there was a lot of overlap as well. And there were some themes that kind of kept coming up in everything that we were doing. And it happened in the manifesting part as well, which I can talk about and I will talk about. Since Julie's so excited about that piece in particular. But what was interesting about that piece is that they talked about the brain, what happens in the brain. And, everybody likes evidence of things. And I, too, am a skeptic without a little bit of evidence. So I will go through some of what we talked about. But first of all, it's very well known already what people say about it, that you think about something and then it becomes your reality, right? So basically this is how they explained it. If you can visualize, and I've heard this a lot, so this is probably information that people already know, but if you can visualize yourself doing something and then also imagine what that would feel like if you were doing it, those two things in combination help create or manifest the reality. So that's true, but if you look at the science behind it, it has to do with what we notice every day. So if we take, for example, gratitude, everybody talks about gratitude and what an important practice that is. Well, why is that important? Because the research has shown that most humans spend 80% of their time thinking about negative things. So gratitude retrains your brain to notice the positive things in your life. So what manifesting does is retrain your brain to notice the opportunities in your life.
Yes, and I want to use this analogy, which helped me when I started my, my gratitude journals and just putting more gratitude in my life. Because this analogy really made me be like, because I remember I was in a seminar or I listened to some audio or something, but they're saying that if, let's say, gratitude is like the red car, and if you start saying, okay, I'm going to start noticing red cars, and then you walk out and you go, wow, there's a lot more red cars than I've ever noticed. Or let's say you're trying to buy a car, right? And you go, hey, I really want to get a a Toyota, a Honda Civic. I really want the Honda Civic in the new, the new brownish color that they came out with. Or is it called champagne, or I don't know what the hot new color is. Chalk. No idea. I think it's chalk or something. So it's like, I want a Honda Civic in chalk, right? And then when you start driving, you're going to start noticing, man, there's so many around when you didn't notice it before. So it's just, it's around, like the things that positive things are around. But if you don't start, if you don't actually make a point of noticing the positive things, then they don't pop up.
That's right. That's right. The same's happened to me with words before. Like someone, I forget, I can't think of a word at the moment, but if it's a word I haven't heard before, I'll all of a sudden, like, I notice it, like, oh, I haven't heard that word before. I look it up, and then I all of a sudden notice that people are saying that word, and I'm like, oh God, that's weird. People are saying this word a lot. And it's probably not that I never heard it before, but it just, I never noticed it before.
Yep.
So that's kind of the whole idea of manifesting, is that you already have everything you want and need at your fingertips. You just have to take it. And it doesn't mean you don't put in any effort. It's not like you sit at home and you say, I'm going to be a millionaire, and you don't put in any effort. You have to continuously try, and talk about it. That was another thing they talked about a lot, that you have to talk about it. You have to tell people about it. You were going to say
Yeah.
something.
I was gonna say absolutely. Like, I think telling something is and or writing it down, or
Yes,
yeah,
writing it
writing
down
down
was
multiple.
another thing. Yeah.
It's a level of commitment that you don't realize that you're doing. Because when you tell some, okay, when you keep it to yourself and you go, I'm gonna get $1 million, my manifesting $1 million, and then you don't tell anybody, right? And you go, I wonder how it doesn't happen, because you, number one, you haven't really truly committed to it, right? And then you haven't also thought it, like visualize all the hows and whys that's gonna happen and all this stuff. Because when you start telling somebody, they're not gonna go, oh, cool, okay, and they're gonna ask, why, how are you gonna do that? Where's it going to come from? What's going to, they're going to ask those questions. Then you're going to get deeper and deeper into the commitment of getting there. So it's going to be like, how, why? Well, I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to market it this way. I'm going to da 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 da, whatever it is, right? Or I'm going to, I don't know, start a retail store, and I'm going to start selling clothes, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to market on Instagram. So you're going to answer all those questions, but by answering all those questions, you're committing yourself closer to whatever that goal is.
Yes. And the belief system matters too, they talked about. So if you don't believe that it's a possibility that this thing can happen, then it's not going to happen. You have to believe that it's a possibility. And why wouldn't it be a possibility? Like, we have no problem imagining the possibility of death or imagining the possibility of terrible things happening. So why do we have such a hard time imagining the possibility of wonderful things happening in our lives?
Mm-hmm.
So it's an exercise in challenging your belief system, your limiting beliefs in life.
Mm-hmm.
So the one of the examples that the guy gave us, which I thought was like super cool, he was talking about that he used to fly airplanes with his dad, and he got certified as a pilot for private, and then he decided that he wanted to get certified as a pilot for commercial. And while he was getting trained in commercial air flight, he decided that he needed his own airplane.
Oh,
And he told his close friends, I think I'm going to buy an airplane. And they were all like, you're crazy. You're not buying an airplane. You don't need an airplane. You know, what any normal fucking human would say about somebody saying that. And he said that he was talking to his co-pilot about the types of planes and how you go about purchasing one. So he just started like gathering information and talking about it. And then after their flight one day, he went into the little lobby area of wherever it was, and there was a airplane salesman in the lobby, and he was upset, saying that somebody had canceled their order for this airplane. And he said that what was crazy about that is that these airplanes are so highly desired that there's usually a wait list of a couple years to get these airplanes. And he said, he asked, how much it is and this and that, and he got some more information, and the guy told him that the person who was going to buy the airplane was going to lease it to the airport for training people to fly. So the airport essentially rents your airplane, and that rent pays the payment on the airplane.
Oh, nice.
So then he went to the airport, and he was talking to the people at the airport about it, and they said that yes, that's true, and they were willing to do that for him. So next thing you know, he bought an airplane.
That's
And
amazing.
when he was telling the story, I was thinking, the way he was telling the story was a little out of order. So I was thinking as he was talking, oh, well, he's probably a millionaire. That's probably why he owns an airplane. But then as he really got into the details of the story, he was like, I don't have millions to just buy an airplane, people. He's like, this is how it happened. And he kind of explained the whole thing. And I was like, okay, now that's really cool. That's an opportunity that he wouldn't have known about had he not been talking about it and thinking about it and paying attention to his surroundings to get it.
And also on top of that, he probably did a bunch of research, so he knows what the payments were. probably from his research. He knows how much the plane would have cost, because what if he walked in and he did no research and he just told himself, I'm gonna buy a plane, and then the person goes, hey, there's a plane for sale, and he goes, oh, how much is it? And go, $1 million. They go, whoa. But if he knew, he's like, okay, I already know it's gonna be $1 million. I know that I'm gonna take a loan out of it. I know that loan is gonna be these payments. I know you know what I mean? If you're already so familiar with it, it's not scary. It's not, you know what I mean? So you're so much more open to it. And it really reminds me of this volunteer event that I just actually participate in. And you go to corrections facilities, and you go to I went to a maximum security prison in Los Angeles. No, sorry,
What?
in California. Yeah, and then I found out that we went to the most violent maximum security prison in California.
Oh my God, Julie.
But we go in, and you know, and you partner up basically with a few of the inmates, and we call them entrepreneurs in training. So you don't, because they want to humanize them, because they've been in jail for, all of these people have been in jail over 20 years, and they don't believe in themselves. They think they're, you know, like in that whole system, you know, like you're treated like trash, so you think you are trash, you think you're nothing and whatever. And even if they go through you know, and it's hard for them to go through self-forgiveness and make and actually make something of themselves once they come out. So to be beneficial to society, they have created these programs where volunteers go in, and then basically we go through like resume building and just things like that. But that's just not the point. It's resume building, all these things, but the point of us really going is to change their whole mind of how they think of themselves. And going back to your manifesting, you know, if every day they're telling themselves, I'm such a piece of shit, or I don't know anything, I'm a, you know, murderer, I'm a this, whatever, right? Then they're gonna always stay that way, and then they're gonna stay on drugs, they're gonna do nothing in jail, they're not gonna try to benefit themselves, right? And the time and the time that we spent with them basically was changing the voice in their head. What, you know, like let's say even they change you know, like you said, 80% of the stuff that you think about, right? So imagine just the 80% that's so negative. What if we change 1% every time we visit, you know, or whatever it is, right? So it ends up being this snowball effect of what they could actually manifest in their lives. They can manifest real change, and when they leave, they actually could be beneficial to society, or they actually could maybe become a motivational speaker for other inmates and say, hey, you guys could do it, or to other people that could possibly do those crimes, and they could change them before the crimes get committed. Just things like that. Like if you just change the way your mind works and the mind thinks, you could really do anything. And this program has been around for a few years, and there's this guy that runs the program now for the Southern California unit. He was in jail for 22 years for I don't know what crime it was, but he was in for 22 years. He started participating in these programs like on his 20th year or something. So in 2 years, he said his mindset completely changed because it actually gave him hope. So once it gave him hope, he was like, I could do this. I could do this. Then the self-belief came in, you know, the steps in the manifesting. Then he started being obsessed with it. So every day he would like try to read books on this and try to figure out how to do this, and, you know, try to figure out how to be a better person. So that's the only thing he focused on, in being a better person. When he presented himself to the board, they actually granted him freedom, you know. So he got out, I think in 2016, and since then he runs this program that goes back I think every 3 weeks, brings like 20 to 30 volunteers, and they start changing the way inmates feel about themselves, so they can actually be beneficial to the society. So it's
Wow.
such a story. And he said the thing that really changed was the way you think,
Yeah.
and the self-belief, manifesting, all of that, you know. It's
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
One of my clients had a semi-similar experience, in the sense that she had a childhood full of abuse and rejection, and she ended up addicted to cocaine. She ended up going to prison, or not prison, jail. And she was bad. So she was like stealing all the time. She was like just not doing well. And going to jail ended up being her saving grace, because when she was in jail, she decided to really tap into her spirituality and start challenging her beliefs about herself. And the mantra sort of that got her through was thinking, if God can love me, then why can't I love myself? And
Oh,
so she started really focusing on that and really changing the way she talked to herself and thought about herself, and really embracing this self-love and spiritual connection love. And through that, when she got out of jail, she was a different person. And, you know, granted, she also got her medication straight in jail and things
right.
like that, got sober in jail, you know, like those things helped. But when she got out, she really started to change her life. And now she's a business owner, and her business has grown drastically over the past couple years. And now she's probably going to sell it for a couple $1,000,000. So, you
Wow.
know, this is somebody who came from childhood trauma and addiction, and through her loving herself essentially and tapping into a more spiritual part of herself, she grew and became something completely different.
That's amazing. I feel like
Yeah.
all of us kind of relate to that, right? All of us had a turning point somewhere that I'm sure, you know, I'm sure something was, there was a aha moment for everybody, and then that self belief came in and then just made you, right?
You're all
So
about
I think
the
that's,
oops, sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you.
oh, I'm all about the one.
You're all about the free tips, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that I learned at the training that I think was so cool, it was actually at the very end, the last training that I went to. It was a guy who studies centenarians, and I guess that's people over 100.
Oh,
And
okay.
he was interested in learning what is it about these people that's helping them live long. So he's interviewed a bunch of these people, and he's continuing his research in this department. And the things that he came up with is that are helpful in longevity, essentially, and good quality of life. He's not interested in the 100-year-olds that don't recognize anybody and lay in bed all day.
That
So
doesn't help.
yeah, so these people are the ones with like a good, fulfilling quality of life. So the self-talk and self-love and self-forgiveness was something that's really important. And he's like, forgiveness itself is so important that I had to write an entire chapter on it. But he was talking about rituals that these people have, and things that they do that are helpful. And he said affirmations was one of them. And so somebody raised their hand and they said, well, you know, I work with this kind of population, and these people are not going to buy into this. So how do you help somebody who's not going to buy into an affirmation? And his suggestion I thought was so cool, because I've never heard it quite like this before. So he was saying, if you have an affirmation that you don't believe, so let's just say one of these inmates is going to say to themselves, I can be successful outside of jail without crime. And I don't know exactly how they'd say that. Maybe just like, I can be successful. But they don't believe it. So what he suggested was that for 5 days, when you wake up in the morning, you ask yourself, if I were successful outside of jail, what would that look like? What would a person who is successful outside of jail do every day? And then each day for 5 days, do one thing that you think a person who's successful would do. And after 5 days, you're going to have a little bit more faith in that affirmation and believe, yeah, I am successful outside of jail. So basically, behaving in the way that you think you should or would, and then watching that turn into a belief, and then watching that turn into your reality.
Oh, I like it. So what if, okay, we gave our listeners an exercise, right? So let's say
Mhm.
if you say your 5 things, talking about, okay, so number one, you list those 5 things that you want to do, that you
No,
think
no,
is,
it's just one thing for 5
oh, one,
days.
5 days, sorry. You list that one thing. Let's say if you want to be, we're just going with successful person, right? So that one thing is, a successful people wake up, like at, 6 o'clock every morning, right? And you do it for 5 days. Is that something that makes sense? Okay.
Yeah.
And then you tell your friends, you tell 3 friends, I'm in the next 5 days, I'm going to wake up at 6 o'clock and I'm going to work out for half an hour. Then I'm going to go to work or something, right? Those are the things. And you tell 3 people, then you write down 3 times, I'm going to wake up at 6 o'clock, work out, blah, blah, for the next 5 days. Then you tell yourself in the mirror that 3 times, then you do it. Then you could go back after 5 days, because 5 days is not a long commitment. At the end of 5 days, at the end of a week, you look back and you go, how did you feel? I want to challenge our listeners to do that.
That's really going to get it ingrained. That's really going to get the juices going. Instead of just the one behavior, you're adding in the talking about it, writing about it, really embodying it, and then paying attention to how that felt, because that feeling part is really important. So yeah, I think that that's a great exercise for people, for sure. But also, you said looking in the mirror and talking to yourself. That was another thing that they talked about. Which training was that where they talked about that? Oh, it was the manifesting one, actually. He said, if you can stare at yourself in the mirror for 3 minutes and just say kind things, only kind things to yourself, he said, you'd be surprised. And he says, you can do it with your partner as well. He said, look into your partner's eyes for 3 minutes and just tell them what you like about them. Send them love for 3 minutes. And he said, you'd be surprised what a difference it can make in how you feel about yourself and how you feel about your partner.
Oh, and you don't have to also just do your partner. You could do with your kids. You do with your sisters, your parents, your siblings, your friend. You could do with anybody. So whoever you, ideally the people that you struggle with, or even that you don't struggle with, it's anybody. You could have these conversations, and I really would love to hear feedback on this. This seems very exciting, and that makes me feel like I want to do that right now.
I know, right? And he said that you'll probably get the sense that 3 minutes is a long time.
No, when people say, even when you're, you do public speaking, or you have to, you have a minute to do whatever. When you have a minute to just focus on just you got talk treatment, it's a long time.
Yeah.
It's to fill it with something meaningful.
For 3 minutes. Yeah. It probably does feel like a long time. I also want to say about the forgiving piece. He said that if you ever get into an argument with somebody, that he has a ritual that he does when he gets into an argument with somebody. And it would be like, let's just say you and I are arguing. It would say, the spirit within me forgives the spirit within Julie. The spirit within Julie forgives me. All is forgiven. And if you continuously say that to yourself, essentially, then it helps promote actually feeling like you forgive someone. And you can do it with yourself as well, since we're talking about being a critic of yourself and not believing in yourself and probably treating yourself poorly. If that's something that you've been doing, you could try this mantra with yourself. The spirit within me forgives the self-critic in me. The self-critic in me forgives me. All is forgiven.
Oh. What if because it sounds a little like the spirit part, it sounds like it could be religious or whatever. Are there other words that could replace spirit? Like maybe the soul, or the inner child in me, or the what? Could you replace it with other things or no? Do you think it'll still be
I'm sure you could. I'm sure you could. But I will say spirituality was a huge theme in the conference, and my very favorite researcher, who's very scientific, actually said the words, spirituality is science.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who's that person?
Dr. Dan Siegel.
I love him.
He's my new best friend. He hugged me at the conference, so I'm pretty sure that we're like connected for life.
Oh, I am jelly right now.
I posted pictures on Instagram, so you can be envious. Probably nobody even knows who these people are, but to me, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
I love it. I love it. I'm so excited. I'm seriously so jealous right now. And I'm so jealous you went to the conference. I bet you just felt so good and so full, by the end of it. Ooh.
Well, okay, Julie knows some stuff that's been going on in my life, and we'll probably get into it at some point in the near future. But I wasn't feeling good at the conference. I was not.
Oh,
The first couple days, I was really like pulling out of this funk that I've been in. And I noticed a lot of insecurities and a lot of anxiety at the conference. And I think it was amazing. I learned so much. I took away so much. And I needed a little bit of time to process it afterwards. So like, this podcast and today has really been the first day that I feel like I've really digested all of the stuff that was input into me this week. But
nice.
I'm sure there's going to be more to come from this conference and what we talk about.
I want to dive more. Like, I think this has to be a multiple episode conversation for sure. Because like, how long was the conference? Like an 8-hour conference all day?
Yeah, pretty much. The first day wasn't quite 8 hours. I think it started at like 1 o'clock. So maybe 5 hours or something the first day, and then the rest of them were pretty long days. So it was a lot of information. I saw a lot of you would be interested to know that the first speaker I heard, and I heard him a couple times while I was there, he's 80 years old, and he was on the ground floor of defining trauma.
Ooh.
So the definition that we have today of trauma, he helped create.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You mean define in the dictionary trauma?
Yeah.
Wow.
And Dr. Dan Siegel defines the mind. Nobody had ever defined the mind before. So he came up with the definition for the mind, which sadly I don't think is well known yet, but hopefully it will be, because it's really amazing stuff.
Oh man, there's so much to dissect, and this is so exciting.
Yeah.
You go by speaker too.
We could, yeah. I've got all my notes here, so you know what I'm saying, we can do this. Yeah, so anyway, the theme of believing, saying, visualizing, and writing down and feeling was the whole concept behind manifesting. And it gets into the whole wellness concept of what the average person thinks of as the brain or the mind being connected to the body, because everything that we feel emotionally, we feel somewhere in our body. So when we can bring our body into what we're doing, we make it more likely to happen, which is where that action piece, that feeling piece really comes into the whole thing.
And when you talk about visualizing, I always try to use all 5 senses. And I know people are like, no, your eyes are visual. No, but this is how I see it. I see, like, when you visualize it, I close my eyes and I really see myself walking through. Let's say if it's me going, I want to buy a new car. Like, I visualize myself in this Honda Civic. So I literally see myself opening the door, going in, putting the driver, key. I don't think that you put keys in cars anymore, but you know what I mean? And then you turn it on.
It's so funny you say that, because this morning I had to drive my mom's car and hers has a key, and I was like, oh, I forgot that I have to have a key for a car.
Exactly. So, and then, but not just that, but like you visualize yourself feeling yourself sitting in the seat. Like, literally, is it cloth seats? Is it leather seats? You have to feel that. You feel the air conditioning turn on. You smell the air conditioning and the new car scent. You literally, like, when you're opening the door, you're feeling the metal and the plastic against your hands. You seriously picture yourself. You visualize yourself so much in it that it is everything that you could imagine of whatever this new car is or whatever your goal is, right? So remember that.
Say the details, to think of it in as much specific detail as you can.
I love it. I love it so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, they said that the specifics matter. And I was hearing that before I went to the conference, but so like instead of just saying I want to be wealthy, how much do you want to make? How much do you want to make? You need to pick your number, because they told the story of Jim Carrey. I didn't know that Jim Carrey was really into manifesting, but I guess the whole thing with Jim Carrey was that he told himself at 5 years before he blew up that he was going to make $10 million. And he actually wrote himself a check for $10 million, and he put it in his wallet and he carried it around with him all the time. And they said it was like 5 days before it had been 5 years or something like that, he landed his first contract that was going to pay him that amount of money or more, or whatever it was. And so basically he manifested it by just believing that it was possible and thinking about it on a regular basis and setting a specific time frame too. Is what he did. I think he said it was going to be in 5 years or something along those lines. In the next 5 years, I'm going to make 10
Yeah, he
million.
went Oprah. Yeah, he went Oprah. He announced all that, but he also talked about the other part, the action part. He said, "I didn't go home and eat a sandwich after that." You know what I mean? Like he
Yeah, so he put in the footwork to get where he needed to go. And that's important. That's an important piece of the puzzle, is we can't just sit back and expect things to happen for us. So with that, I think Julie has a hard stop today, but we discovered a lot of good things. We talked about a lot of good stuff. And hopefully you guys have some exercises to try out and consider. And again, this was all based in science. So check it out.